My name is Amanda Wilson, and at 30 years old, I thought I had the perfect life. A loving husband, James, a beautiful suburban home with a spacious backyard, and a fulfilling career teaching kindergarten. Then my sister-in-law Allison moved nearby with her 8-year-old son Tyler after her divorce. I never imagined she would accuse me of hitting her child, or that my husband would believe her over me. Before I continue the story of betrayal and vindication, please like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. James and I celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary just 3 months before everything fell apart. We met in college, dated for 2 years, and had what everyone called a fairy tale wedding at a beautiful vineyard outside Seattle. Our relationship had always been loving and supportive. We communicated well, shared household responsibilities, and genuinely enjoyed spending time together. James worked as an architect at a prestigious firm while I taught kindergarten at Pinewood Elementary. We complemented each other perfectly. His analytical mind balanced my creative spirit. James and his sister Allison had always been close, despite her difficult personality. Growing up with parents who traveled frequently for work, they relied heavily on each other. Allison was 2 years older than James and had always been somewhat overprotective of him. From the stories James told, she had scared away several of his girlfriends before me. When we first met, she scrutinized every aspect of my life, questioned my intentions, and made subtle comments about our relationship being temporary. James always defended her behavior, saying that's just how Allison shows she cares. When Allison announced her divorce from her husband Brad after 10 years of marriage, James immediately offered support. Brad had accepted a job across the country, and Allison decided not to relocate with him. She claimed he had grown distant and prioritized his career over their family. With the divorce finalized, Allison started looking for a fresh start with their son Tyler. There's that nice rental house just 3 streets over from us, James suggested during a family dinner. You and Tyler would be close enough that we could help out whenever needed. I smiled and nodded, trying to be supportive despite my reservations. While I sympathized with Allison's situation, her moving so close would drastically change our peaceful life. Still, I wanted to be a good wife and sister-in-law, so I helped James prepare the spare bedroom for the times Tyler might stay over. 2 months later, Allison and Tyler moved into the rental house. I brought over a homemade lasagna and a welcome basket filled with essentials for their first night. Allison accepted my gifts with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. How thoughtful, she said flatly. Though Tyler can't eat dairy. I'm sure you didn't know that. I didn't, I admitted, feeling embarrassed. I'm sorry, Tyler. I'll make you something special next time. Tyler, a sweet boy with his mother's blue eyes and a shy smile, shrugged. It's okay. I can eat a little dairy sometimes. Allison quickly corrected him. No, honey. Remember what the doctor said? We don't want you getting sick. As the weeks passed, I noticed more warning signs of Allison's passive-aggressive behavior. She would call James directly rather than contacting both of us about family matters. She scheduled family outings during times she knew I had teacher planning sessions. She forgot to include me in text message threads about family gatherings. When James and I hosted Sunday dinners, Allison would bring uninvited guests or change the agreed-upon time at the last minute. If I made her favorite dessert, she would mention that it wasn't quite like their mother's recipe. If I didn't, she would sigh and say, I was really hoping for chocolate cake tonight. The most troubling aspect was how Allison manipulated James. She frequently reminded him of childhood promises they'd made to always be there for each other. She called him for minor home repairs that any adult could handle. She consulted him on every decision regarding Tyler, from school projects to doctor appointments, making him feel like an essential co-parent. Despite Allison's barriers, I tried to build a relationship with Tyler. He was a bright, curious boy who loved dinosaurs and building elaborate structures with Legos. I created a special space in our guest room with dinosaur bedding and a small table for his Lego projects. When he stayed over, I would take him to the Natural History Museum or read him stories about prehistoric creatures. And Amanda, you tell the best stories, Tyler said one evening as I tucked him in. You do the voices better than Mom. The next day, Allison called James to say Tyler had nightmares and wouldn't be staying over anymore. When I tried discussing these concerns with James, he dismissed them as normal family adjustment. Allison is just going through a rough patch, he would say. She's a single mom now. We need to cut her some slack. I understand that, I replied. But it feels like she's trying to come between us sometimes. James sighed. That's not fair, Amanda. She's my sister, and she needs support right now. Tyler needs male influence in his life since Brad moved away. I wanted to be understanding, but the situation was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. Allison seemed to grow bolder with her subtle jabs when James wasn't around. Tyler's teacher says he's so bright, she mentioned during a family lunch. Must be nice having such well-behaved children in your class, Amanda. Since you and James haven't been blessed with kids yet. She knew we'd been trying to conceive for over a year without success. Her comment stung, but I forced a smile and changed the subject. As summer approached, the tension in our extended family had become a constant undercurrent. I tried maintaining boundaries while still being welcoming. James remained oblivious to the dynamics, seeing only his sister and wife getting along on the surface. Little did I know that this delicate balance was about to shatter completely. The 4th of July weekend arrived with perfect weather for our annual neighborhood barbecue. James and I had hosted this event for the past 3 years, inviting friends, neighbors, and family for food, games, and fireworks viewing from our backyard. This year, I put extra effort into the preparations, hoping to create a harmonious family atmosphere despite the underlying tensions with Allison. I spent days planning the menu, decorating the backyard with patriotic streamers and lanterns, and organizing activities for the children. James handled the grilling station while I prepared side dishes, desserts, and refreshing summer drinks. We set up a water balloon station, badminton net, and craft table to keep everyone entertained. Everything looks amazing. Our neighbor Eleanor commented as she arrived with her husband Frank. You've outdone yourself this year, Amanda. I smiled, feeling proud of my efforts. Thanks. I wanted everyone to have a great time. The party was scheduled to start at 3 o'clock. By 3:30, most of our guests had arrived, except for Allison and Tyler. James called her twice, growing increasingly anxious. She's probably just running late, I reassured him, though I suspected this was another power play. At 4 o'clock, Allison finally arrived with Tyler in tow. She wasn't alone. Behind her stood a tall man with salt and pepper hair and 2 teenage girls I'd never met. Sorry we're late, she announced without sounding sorry at all. This is my colleague Daniel and his daughters Madison and Sophia. I hope it's okay that I invited them. I mentioned our family barbecue and they didn't have plans. James welcomed them warmly while I quickly set additional places at the table and brought out extra food. Though I was frustrated by Allison's presumption, I remained the perfect hostess, introducing Daniel and his daughters to our other guests and making sure they felt included. Your sister-in-law seems nice, my friend Catherine whispered as we refilled the snack bowls. But she has some nerve bringing 3 extra people without asking. I nodded slightly. That's Allison for you. Always keeping us on our toes. The afternoon progressed pleasantly despite the initial tension. Children played in the sprinklers while adults chatted in groups around the yard. I moved between conversations, ensuring everyone had enough food and drinks. James manned the grill, occasionally shooting me grateful smiles for handling the social aspects of hosting. After the main meal, I organized games for the children in the backyard. We played freeze tag, relay races, and a water balloon toss that left everyone laughing and soaked. Tyler participated enthusiastically, his shyness disappearing as he raced around with the other kids. During a game of Simon Says, Tyler began pushing another child who he felt was standing too close to him. Tyler, I said gently, kneeling down to his level. We don't push our friends. If you need more space, You can use your words to ask politely. He started it, Tyler pouted, crossing his arms. Even if someone bothers you. Pushing isn't the right response, I explained. How about we take a quick break? Would you like some juice? Tyler nodded reluctantly, and the moment passed without further incident. We rejoined the games after our short chat, and Tyler seemed to have forgotten the minor correction. Later, while the adults were setting up for dessert, I heard a cry from the far end of the yard. I rushed over to find Tyler on the ground, holding his arm, tears streaming down his face. Several children stood around him looking concerned. What happened? I asked, kneeling beside him. We were racing and he tripped over the garden hose, explained 8-year-old Lily, pointing to the green hose that snaked across the lawn. I examined Tyler's arm and found a nasty scrape with a bit of dirt in it. Let's get this cleaned up, I said soothingly. It might sting a little, but you'll feel better afterward. I led Tyler to the bathroom where I gently washed the wound with soap and water, applied antiseptic, and covered it with a dinosaur-themed bandage I kept specifically for him. You're being so brave, I told him as he winced slightly. How about an ice cream sandwich to make it all better? Tyler's tears subsided, replaced by a small smile. Can I have chocolate chip cookies too? Absolutely, I agreed, relieved to see him feeling better. When we returned to the party, I explained what had happened to Allison, who had been deep in conversation with Daniel and hadn't noticed her son's injury. He fell while running and scraped his arm, I explained. I cleaned it up and he's fine now. Allison glanced at Tyler's bandaged arm. Are you okay, sweetie? Aunt Amanda gave me a dinosaur bandage, Tyler announced proudly. And I'm getting ice cream. Allison nodded distractedly before returning to her conversation. The rest of the party continued without incident. Guests enjoyed dessert, and we watched the neighborhood fireworks display as darkness fell. By all accounts, despite Allison's late arrival with unexpected guests, the barbecue had been a success. The following morning, I was preparing my classroom materials for the upcoming school year when my phone rang. It was James, calling from work, which was unusual. Amanda, he said, his voice tight with anger. What the hell happened yesterday? Confused, I set down my papers. What do you mean? Allison just called me in tears. She said Tyler's arm is badly bruised. And he told her you slapped him during the party. How could you do that? The accusation hit me like a physical blow. What? James, that's absolutely not true. He fell while running and scraped his arm on the ground. I helped clean him up. There were other children there who saw what happened. Allison says Tyler is terrified of you now. He told her you got angry when he was playing and hit him hard enough to knock him down. That's a complete lie. I exclaimed, my heart racing. James, you know I would never hit a child. I'm a kindergarten teacher, for goodness sake. Then why would Tyler say that? Why would he make up such a specific story? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own husband was accepting this outrageous accusation without question. Maybe Allison coached him, I suggested, my voice shaking. She's been trying to come between us for months. You have to see that. Now you're accusing my sister of lying about child abuse? James's voice grew colder. That's low, Amanda, even if you're trying to cover for losing your temper. I didn't lose my temper. I didn't hit him. There were witnesses, James. We'll talk about this when I get home, he said before hanging up. I sat in stunned silence, my hands trembling as I set down the phone. How had this happened? How could a perfect family barbecue turn into such a nightmare overnight? And how could my husband of 5 years believe I would harm a child? Little did I know, this was only the beginning of my ordeal. James arrived home that evening earlier than usual, his face set in hard lines I rarely saw. He dropped his briefcase by the door and stood in the entryway, keeping his distance from me as though I were a stranger. I want to understand what happened, he said, his voice unnaturally calm. Allison showed me photos of Tyler's arm. It's badly bruised. James, I told you what happened, I insisted, trying to keep my voice steady. He fell while running in the backyard. I cleaned a scrape on his arm. There was no bruise when I bandaged him. So you're saying the bruise appeared afterward? Magically? I'm saying I didn't cause it. Maybe he fell again at home, or maybe. I hesitated, not wanting to directly accuse Allison, but seeing few alternatives. Maybe the bruise isn't from yesterday at all. James ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Why would Allison lie about something like this? What possible reason could she have? She's been trying to drive a wedge between us since she moved here, I said, finally voicing the concern I'd been holding back. You must have noticed how she undermines me, excludes me, makes those little comments. This is about a child being hurt, Amanda. Not some imagined slight between you and my sister. His dismissal of my concerns felt like a betrayal. After 5 years together, he still couldn't see what was happening right in front of him. Our argument was interrupted by the doorbell. James opened it to find Allison standing there with Tyler, who partially hid behind her legs. I thought we should talk about this face to face, Allison said, her eyes red as though she'd been crying. Tyler needs to know that adults take responsibility for their actions. I stared at her in disbelief. The audacity of bringing Tyler into this situation made my blood boil. But I maintained my composure. There's nothing to take responsibility for, I said firmly. I didn't hit him. Allison knelt beside Tyler. It's okay, sweetie. Tell Uncle James what happened yesterday when you were playing. Tyler looked up at his mother, then at James, and finally at me. There was confusion in his eyes, not fear. Aunt Amanda got mad when I was playing, he recited, the words sounding rehearsed. She hit my arm really hard and I fell down. Tyler, I said gently, you know that's not what happened. You were running and tripped over the garden hose. Remember? Lily was there, and she helped me get you inside to clean your scrape. Tyler glanced at his mother uncertainly. Don't try to confuse him. Allison snapped. He knows what happened. This is ridiculous, I said, turning to James. Call Lily's parents. Call any of the children who were there. They all saw what happened. Stop trying to drag other people into this, Allison said. Tyler has no reason to lie. Neither do I exclaimed. I've devoted my entire career to helping children. Why would I suddenly hit one? The conversation deteriorated from there. James attempted to mediate, but his questions revealed his bias. He asked me about being stressed or overwhelmed during the party. He wondered if I'd had too much to drink. Each question felt like another betrayal. After Allison left with Tyler, the tension in our house became unbearable. James slept in the spare room that night, saying he needed space to think. I lay awake in our bed, tears streaming down my face, wondering how my life had imploded so quickly. The following days brought new horrors. Rumors began spreading through our social circle. I received concerned texts from friends asking what had happened. Parents from my school called each other, questioning whether their children were safe in my classroom. The principal called me in for a conversation about the concerning allegations that had reached her ears. Nothing has been proven, Principal Garcia assured me. But I need to place you on administrative leave until this is resolved. I'm sure you understand. I didn't understand. I felt like I was living in a nightmare where no one would believe the truth. Social isolation crept in quickly. Friends who had laughed with me at the barbecue now avoided my calls. Neighbors who usually waved from their yards hurried inside when they saw me. James moved like a ghost through our house, speaking to me only when necessary, his eyes filled with doubt and disappointment. My anxiety spiraled as the days passed. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Couldn't focus on anything beyond the terrible accusation hanging over my head. The person who should have been my strongest defender had become my judge. One afternoon, desperate for human connection, I called my friend Catherine, who had been at the barbecue. I believe you, she said after I poured out the whole story. I saw Tyler fall. I saw you take him inside to clean up his scrape. There was no hitting involved. Her words were the first balm to my wounded spirit in days. Will you tell James that? I asked hopefully. Catherine hesitated. I tried already. He said I must not have seen everything, that Tyler confessed to the truth when he felt safe with his mother. Even with Catherine's support, I felt increasingly isolated. My parents lived across the country, and when I finally called them to explain the situation, they were horrified but helpless to intervene directly. You need a lawyer. Amanda, my father advised. This is serious. It could affect your career, your reputation. The thought of needing legal representation to defend myself against a false accusation made by family was almost too much to bear. The final blow came when Allison approached James with a suggestion that felt like a knife to my heart. I think Amanda might need help with her anger. She told him during a private lunch that he later recounted. There are stress management programs, therapy options. I'm not trying to make things worse, but if she has these issues, they should be addressed before they escalate. James relayed this conversation as though Allison were being helpful rather than driving the knife deeper. Do you really think I need anger management? I asked him, tears welling in my eyes. In 5 years, have you ever seen me lose control? Have you ever feared my temper? James looked away. People can hide parts of themselves. I thought I knew you, but now I'm not sure. His words cut deeper than any before. The man who had vowed to stand by me through better or worse now looked at me like I was a stranger capable of violence against a child. That night, alone in our bedroom while James again slept elsewhere, I curled into a ball and allowed myself to truly break down. How had Allison managed to destroy everything so quickly? How could James doubt me so completely? And what would happen next in this nightmare that showed no signs of ending? I didn't know then that things were about to get even worse. The doorbell rang early on a Tuesday morning. James had already left for work, and I was sitting at the kitchen table staring blankly at a cup of cold coffee. I considered ignoring it, having grown wary of facing neighbors who now viewed me with suspicion. But the persistent ringing suggested whoever it was wouldn't leave easily. I opened the door to find a woman in her 40s with short brown hair and a serious expression. She wore business casual attire and carried a leather portfolio. Amanda Wilson, she asked, her tone professional. Yes, that's me. She extended a business card. I'm Mrs. Harper from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you regarding an allegation that has been filed. May I come in? My stomach dropped. Child Protective Services. The words alone made me feel sick with fear and disbelief. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was official. Potentially life-destroying. Of course, I managed, stepping aside. Mrs. Harper sat on our couch, placing her portfolio on the coffee table between us. She removed several forms and a notebook. Mrs. Wilson, I want to be clear that at this stage, we're conducting an initial investigation based on a report we received. No determinations have been made. I'll be asking you some questions. And I'd appreciate honest, direct answers. I nodded, too numb to speak. A report has been filed alleging that on July 4th, you struck 8-year-old Tyler Bennett with enough force to cause bruising. Can you tell me about the events of that day? I recounted the barbecue in detail, describing the games with the children, Tyler's fall, and how I had cleaned and bandaged his scrape. Mrs. Harper took notes without revealing any reaction to my story. Were there witnesses to Tyler's fall? Yes. Several children were playing with him, including Lily Rodriguez from next door. Also, my friend Catherine Stevens saw what happened and helped me get the first aid kit. And at any point during the day, did you become frustrated with Tyler's behavior? There was a minor incident during Simon Says where he pushed another child. I spoke to him about using words instead of pushing, but it was a calm conversation. He responded well, and we continued playing after a short break. The questions continued, becoming increasingly personal and uncomfortable. Have you ever struck a child before, Mrs. Wilson? Absolutely not. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I've devoted my career to creating safe, nurturing environments for children. Yes, I'm aware of your profession. That will require a separate evaluation regarding your classroom interactions. The implication that my career was in jeopardy sent fresh waves of panic through me. Mrs. Wilson, do you have any history of anger management issues? Any instances where you've lost control of your temper? No, never. Has your husband ever expressed concerns about your reactions to stress or frustration? No. Until this accusation. James and I had a strong, supportive relationship. He would have told you the same a week ago. Mrs. Harper's expression remained neutral. People often hide aspects of their behavior from spouses, Mrs. Wilson. It was almost the exact phrase James had used, which made me wonder if he had already spoken with her. Has my husband been interviewed? I asked. Yes, I met with Mr. Wilson yesterday at his office. The fact that James hadn't mentioned this conversation felt like yet another betrayal. The formal interview continued for over 2 hours. Mrs. Harper requested permission to see our backyard where the incident allegedly occurred. She asked to view the bathroom where I had treated Tyler's injury. She inquired about my relationship with Allison before and after her move to our neighborhood. Throughout the process, I felt increasingly vulnerable and exposed. This stranger was evaluating my character, my home, my life, based on a terrible lie. The professional distance she maintained gave me no indication of whether she believed me or my accuser. As the investigation progressed over the following days, James's continued distance compounded my isolation. When we did speak, he seemed to choose his words carefully, as though our conversations might be reported to authorities. James, why didn't you tell me you spoke with the CPS investigator? I asked him one evening. I didn't want to worry you more than necessary, he replied, not meeting my eyes. Did you defend me? Did you tell her I would never hurt a child? His hesitation before answering told me everything. I told her you've never been violent before, but that I wasn't present during the specific incident. The specific incident that never happened. I exclaimed, frustration boiling over. You're speaking about it as though it's established fact. Amanda, please calm down, James said, glancing toward the door as if worried someone might hear my raised voice and misinterpret. Don't tell me to calm down, I said, lowering my voice despite my anger. My entire life is falling apart because of a lie, and my husband won't even stand by me. During the family interviews conducted by Mrs. Harper, Allison maintained an air of reluctant accusation, as though she hated being in this position, but felt obligated to protect her son. She brought photographs of Tyler's bruised arm and recounted how he had been having nightmares since the barbecue. Tyler, clearly uncomfortable during his interview, repeated the story about me hitting him, though his details changed slightly each time he told it. Mrs. Harper noted these inconsistencies in her file without comment. The psychological assessment was particularly humiliating. I sat in a sterile office answering questions about my childhood, my relationship with my parents, my methods for handling stress, and my attitudes toward physical discipline. The psychologist, Dr. Finch, showed me ink blot tests and asked what I saw, then had me complete lengthy questionnaires designed to reveal personality disorders or violent tendencies. Have you ever wanted to harm a child? Dr. Finch asked, watching my reaction closely. Never, I said firmly. The thought is abhorrent to me. Everyone has intrusive thoughts sometimes, Mrs. Wilson. It's what we do with those thoughts that matters. I understand that. But I've never had violent impulses toward children or anyone else. As the investigation dragged into its second week, the effects on my daily life became increasingly devastating. My administrative leave from school continued, and whispers among parents threatened to become calls for my permanent removal. Friends who initially gave me the benefit of the doubt began to wonder why the investigation was taking so long if I was truly innocent. Even grocery shopping became an ordeal. I would see acquaintances in the store who would suddenly remember items in another aisle when they spotted me. Once, I overheard a parent from school tell her friend, "Better safe than sorry." I wouldn't want my child in her class even if they clear her. The night after that incident, alone in our bedroom while James worked late again, I finally broke down completely. Sobs racked my body as I curled up on our bed, clutching a pillow to muffle the sound. Everything I had worked for, everything I had built with James, was crumbling because of a vindictive lie that no one seemed willing to question. In desperation, I called my parents, allowing myself to fully express the fear and hurt I'd been containing. I don't know what to do anymore, I admitted through tears. No one believes me. James has practically convicted me already. My career might be over. All because Allison decided to destroy me. We believe you, sweetheart, my mother assured me. And the truth has a way of coming out. You need to stay strong and keep fighting. How? It's my word against hers. And everyone seems to believe her. There must be evidence somewhere, my father suggested. Something that proves what really happened. His words planted a seed in my mind. But it didn't fully bloom until the next day when I encountered our neighbor Eleanor while collecting the mail. Amanda, she said cautiously. How are you holding up? We haven't seen you outside much lately. It's been difficult, I admitted, appreciating her willingness to speak to me when others wouldn't. Frank and I were just saying how shocking these allegations are. We saw you with the children that day. You were so patient, so kind. Thank you for saying that, I said, genuinely touched. And thank you again for recommending that security system, Eleanor continued. After your backyard cameras caught those teenagers messing with our garden, Frank installed the same system. Best decision we made. I froze. Backyard cameras? Yes, the ones you and James installed after that attempted break-in last winter. They gave us peace of mind installing our own. In that moment, a realization struck me with such force that I nearly gasped aloud. We had installed security cameras covering our backyard 6 months ago. With everything that had happened, I had completely forgotten about them. If they had been working during the barbecue, they would have captured exactly what happened with Tyler. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. There might be proof of my innocence after all. As soon as Eleanor left, I rushed back inside and headed straight for the home office where James kept the security system controls. We had installed 4 cameras around our property after a neighbor's home was burglarized. One camera covered the front door, another the back door, and 2 more monitored different angles of the backyard. James usually handled the technical aspects of our home systems, so I wasn't entirely familiar with accessing the footage. I sat at his desk and turned on the computer, praying he hadn't changed his password recently. Thankfully, the computer unlocked when I typed in our anniversary date. I searched through his applications until I found the security software icon and clicked it open. A grid appeared showing live feeds from all 4 cameras. Now I needed to figure out how to access archived footage. After several frustrating minutes of clicking through menus, I found an option labeled Recorded Events. The system was set to save motion-detected footage for 30 days before automatically deleting it. The 4th of July barbecue had been just 16 days ago. My hands trembled as I selected the date and scrolled through the timeline. There were numerous recordings throughout the day as people moved around our property. I clicked on segments covering the afternoon hours when the children were playing in the backyard. The first few clips showed nothing significant: adults chatting in groups, children running through sprinklers, James at the grill. I continued searching, my heart racing with anticipation and fear. What if the cameras hadn't captured the crucial moment? What if the angle was wrong or the system had malfunctioned? Then I found it. A 3-minute clip from the camera mounted on our back porch, timestamped 4:47 p.m. The frame captured most of the lawn area where the children had been playing. I could clearly see Tyler racing with 3 other children, including Lily. They were running toward the back fence, laughing. Then, just as the children rounded the corner near the garden, Tyler's foot caught on the green garden hose that snaked across the grass. He stumbled forward, arms windmilling, before falling onto his hands and knees. The camera captured his pained expression as he sat back and examined his arm. The other children gathered around him as he began to cry. I watched myself hurry into the frame from the patio where I had been refreshing the snack table. I knelt beside Tyler, examined his arm, and spoke to him while Lily pointed to the hose. Then I helped Tyler to his feet and led him toward the house, presumably to clean his injury. The entire incident was crystal clear. At no point did I strike Tyler. At no point was there any anger or aggression in my body language. It was exactly as I had described, an accidental fall followed by appropriate first aid. I felt a rush of vindication so powerful that tears sprang to my eyes. Here was irrefutable proof of my innocence. The truth that no one would believe was captured in high-definition video. As I continued reviewing footage, I discovered something even more revealing. Another clip, timestamped about 20 minutes after Tyler's fall, showed him sitting at a picnic table eating ice cream. Allison was visible in the background, watching as I adjusted the dinosaur bandage on Tyler's arm. She didn't appear concerned or upset. In fact, she seemed completely disinterested in her son's minor injury until Daniel approached her with a drink. This footage proved not only that I hadn't hit Tyler, but also that Allison had witnessed the aftermath of his accident and raised no concerns at the time. Her later accusation was definitively exposed as a fabrication. I downloaded both video clips to a USB drive, made a backup copy to my personal cloud storage, and then sat back in the chair, overwhelmed by emotions. Relief, vindication, and a new anger washed over me in waves. For 2 weeks, I had been treated like a child abuser. My husband had doubted me. My career had been jeopardized. My reputation in the community had been shattered. All because of a malicious lie that could have been disproven immediately if anyone had bothered to check the security footage, including James, my husband, who managed our security system and surely knew the cameras would have captured any incident in the backyard. Why hadn't he thought to check? The question sent a fresh wave of hurt through me. With evidence in hand, I faced a decision about what to do next. Should I confront James first, forcing him to acknowledge his failure to trust me? Should I go directly to Allison and demand she retract her accusation? Or should I take the footage straight to Mrs. Harper at CPS? I called Catherine, the only friend who had stood by me throughout the ordeal. "This is incredible news," she said after I explained about finding the security footage. "You're completely vindicated." "I'm trying to decide what to do next," I told her. "Part of me wants to make James watch this footage and see his face when he realizes how terribly he's treated me." "That's understandable," Catherine replied. "But what's your ultimate goal here? To punish James or to clear your name officially?" Her question helped clarify my thinking. Clearing my name has to be the priority. The CPS investigation is the most serious threat right now. Then I'd suggest showing him first, giving him a chance to make things right by supporting you when you take this to the authorities. That way, you address both issues at once. That evening, when James returned from work, I was waiting in the living room with my laptop open. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady with newfound confidence. James sighed, setting down his briefcase. "Amanda, I'm exhausted. Can this wait?" "No, it cannot wait. I've found something you need to see. If this is about Tyler again, I think we should wait until the investigation is complete before discussing it further." His dismissive tone ignited my anger. "I have proof, James. Absolute proof that I never hit Tyler. It was on our security cameras the entire time." His expression shifted from tiredness to surprise. "The cameras?" "Yes. The backyard security cameras that you set up. The ones you somehow forgot about when your sister accused me of child abuse." I turned the laptop toward him and played the footage of Tyler's fall. James watched in silence, his face growing paler as the truth unfolded before his eyes. "There's more," I said, playing the second clip showing Allison's indifference to Tyler's injury until Daniel approached. When both clips had finished, James sat heavily on the couch, his head in his hands. "My God," he whispered. "She lied. Allison made the whole thing up." "Yes, she did. And you believed her without question. You didn't even think to check our own security footage." James looked up at me, his eyes filled with shame. "Amanda, I don't know what to say." "I'm so sorry." "Sorry isn't enough, James. Not even close. You chose your sister over me. You let me be investigated for child abuse. You let my reputation and career be threatened. All when the truth was sitting right here on our computer." "You're right," he admitted. "I failed you completely. What can I do to make this right? For starters, you can come with me tomorrow when I take this evidence to Mrs. Harper. Then we need to discuss how to move forward from here. Because I honestly don't know if our marriage can recover from this." James nodded solemnly, accepting the severity of his betrayal. "Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it." I closed the laptop, feeling no satisfaction in his remorse. The damage had been done, and though the evidence would clear my name, the trust between us had been shattered. That night, As I prepared the USB drive and documentation for my meeting with CPS, I reflected on how quickly a foundation built over 5 years could crumble. The vindication I had hoped would bring relief instead left me with profound questions about my marriage and the painful road ahead. Early the next morning, I called Mrs. Harper's office to request an urgent meeting. "I've discovered video evidence that completely disproves the allegations against me," I explained to the receptionist. "I need to present this to Mrs. Harper as soon as possible." An appointment was scheduled for 11 a.m. that same day. James took the morning off work to accompany me, as promised. The drive to the CPS office was tense and quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts about the upcoming confrontation and its aftermath. "I should have believed you," James said as we parked outside the nondescript government building. "I should have trusted what I know about your character instead of letting Allison's accusation cloud my judgment." "Yes, you should have," I replied simply. His apologies, though seemingly sincere, couldn't erase the painful reality of his betrayal. The CPS office was clinical and impersonal, with beige walls and uncomfortable chairs in the waiting area. I clutched my folder containing printed screenshots from the video and the USB drive with the full footage. After a few minutes, Mrs. Harper emerged from a hallway and led us to a small conference room. "Mrs. Wilson, Mr. Wilson," she greeted us professionally. "I understand you have new information regarding the case." "Yes," I said, my voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "I have video evidence that proves conclusively that I never struck Tyler Bennett. The incident his mother reported was fabricated." Mrs. Harper's expression remained neutral. "May I see this evidence?" I connected the USB drive to the computer in the conference room and pulled up the first video clip. Mrs. Harper watched intently as the footage showed Tyler running, tripping over the garden hose, falling, and me rushing to help him. "As you can see," I explained, "Tyler fell accidentally while running. I never struck him or acted aggressively toward him in any way." I played the second clip showing Allison's reaction, or lack thereof, to Tyler's injury. "This was filmed approximately 20 minutes after the fall," I continued. "As you can see, Allison Bennett was aware of her son's injury and showed no concern at the time. She witnessed me caring for Tyler and raised no objections." Mrs. Harper rewound and replayed certain segments, examining the footage carefully. Her professional demeanor cracked slightly, revealing what appeared to be genuine surprise. "You need to see the rest," she said, almost to herself, as she studied Allison's behavior in the second clip. She turned to face us directly. "Mrs. Wilson, this evidence certainly contradicts the account provided by Mrs. Bennett and her son. May I ask why this footage wasn't presented earlier in the investigation?" James spoke up, taking responsibility. "That's my fault. I manage our home security system, and in the shock of the accusation, I failed to consider checking the cameras. Amanda discovered the footage yesterday." Mrs. Harper nodded, making notes in her file. "This significantly changes the direction of our investigation. Based on this evidence, I have serious concerns about the validity of the original allegation. It was a deliberate false accusation," I stated firmly. "Allison Bennett knowingly filed a false report that has damaged my reputation and threatened my career." "That's a serious allegation in itself, Mrs. Wilson. Filing a false report to CPS is potentially criminal." "I'm aware of that," I replied, "and I'm prepared to pursue that if necessary." Mrs. Harper closed her notebook and removed her glasses. "I'll need to review this evidence thoroughly and consult with my supervisor. We'll also need to conduct follow-up interviews with Mrs. Bennett and Tyler in light of this new information." "What happens next?" James asked. "Given the nature of this evidence, I'll be expediting the review process. Mr. Wilson, I'll need you to verify the authenticity of this security footage, confirming the date and timestamps are accurate. Mrs. Wilson, I'd like to schedule another interview with you tomorrow to address some additional questions that arise from this development." As we prepared to leave, Mrs. Harper added, "While I cannot make official determinations at this point, I want you to know that this evidence is extremely compelling. Thank you for bringing it forward. The validation in her words, however professional and measured, felt like the first breath of fresh air after weeks of suffocation. 2 days later, Mrs. Harper called to inform me that she had conducted follow-up interviews with Allison and Tyler. She requested that James and I come to the office for a meeting that would include Allison as well. Is that necessary? I asked, reluctant to face Allison directly after everything she had done. I believe it's in everyone's best interest, Mrs. Harper replied. My supervisor will be present as well. The meeting was scheduled for the following morning. That night, I barely slept, mentally preparing myself for the confrontation with the woman who had tried to destroy my life. When we arrived at the CPS office, Mrs. Harper and her supervisor, Mr. Daniels, were already in the conference room. Allison arrived a few minutes later, her usual confident demeanor replaced by nervous agitation. She avoided eye contact with me as she took a seat across the table. Mr. Daniels began the meeting by explaining that new evidence had been presented that contradicted the original allegation. Mrs. Bennett, we've reviewed security footage from the Wilson home that shows your son's injury was caused by an accidental fall, not by Mrs. Wilson striking him. Allison shifted uncomfortably. That can't be right. Tyler told me what happened. We've shown Tyler the video as well, Mrs. Harper interjected. When confronted with the footage, he admitted that you told him to say Mrs. Wilson hit him, even though that wasn't what happened. The color drained from Allison's face. He's confused. He's just a child. Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Daniels continued, his tone stern but professional. Making false reports to Child Protective Services is a serious offense. It diverts resources from children who are actually in danger, and it can cause significant harm to those falsely accused. I was protecting my son, Allison insisted, her voice rising. Amanda has always been jealous of my relationship with James. She resents Tyler. I was concerned about his safety. The evidence clearly shows that Mrs. Wilson provided appropriate care for Tyler after his accidental fall, Mrs. Harper stated. There is no indication of any threat to his safety in her presence. James, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Allison, why would you do this? Why would you lie about something so serious? Allison's composure cracked completely. Because she has everything, she exclaimed, gesturing toward me. The perfect house, the perfect job, my brother wrapped around her finger. You two were always too busy for us until I made you pay attention. By accusing me of child abuse? I asked incredulously. By risking my career and reputation? By traumatizing your own son? I didn't think it would go this far, Allison admitted, tears forming in her eyes. I just wanted James to see that she wasn't perfect. I wanted him to choose me and Tyler for once. Mrs. Bennett. Mr. Daniels interrupted. This conversation is being documented as part of our investigation. I need to inform you that CPS will be closing the case against Mrs. Wilson as unsubstantiated based on clear contradictory evidence. Additionally, we will be opening a separate investigation regarding your parenting decisions, including involving your child in making false accusations. Allison's expression changed from defiance to fear. You can't take Tyler from me. He's all I have. Our goal is always family preservation when possible, Mrs. Harper assured her. But there will need to be an assessment and likely a parenting plan put in place. After the meeting concluded, Mrs. Harper pulled me aside to formally apologize for the ordeal I had endured. We're required to investigate all allegations, she explained. But I want you to know that we'll be sending formal documentation to your school district clearing you of any wrongdoing. Your professional reputation should not suffer from this incident. The relief of official vindication was overwhelming. As James and I left the building, I felt as though a massive weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The nightmare wasn't completely over. But the truth had finally prevailed. In the parking lot, James reached for my hand, but I wasn't ready for that reconciliation yet. I'm grateful you came with me today, I told him. But we still have a lot to work through. I know, he acknowledged. And I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. As we drove home, I reflected on the confrontation with Allison and her shocking admission. The investigation had revealed the truth about the false accusation, but it had also exposed deeper truths about my marriage and family relationships that would take much longer to process and heal. The weeks following the CPS confrontation brought significant changes to our lives. With the case officially closed and my name cleared, I was reinstated at Pinewood Elementary with a formal apology from the administration. Principal Garcia met with me personally to express her support and assure me that steps would be taken to address any lingering doubts among parents. "Your record remains spotless, Amanda," she told me, "and I want you to know that I never believed you capable of harming a child." Returning to my classroom was both joyful and awkward. Most of my colleagues welcomed me back warmly, though I could sense lingering questions in some of their eyes. The children, thankfully, were simply happy to see me, untouched by the adult complications that had swirled around my absence. At home, James and I faced the difficult process of rebuilding our fractured relationship. The night after the CPS meeting, we sat down for the most honest conversation of our marriage. "I need you to understand how deeply you hurt me," I began, fighting to keep my voice steady. "When Allison accused me, you should have been my strongest defender. Instead, you became my judge." James nodded, his eyes reflecting genuine remorse. "I've replayed it all in my mind 1,000 times, wondering how I could have doubted you. The only explanation I have, though it's not an excuse, is that Allison has been a constant in my life since childhood. I've always trusted her implicitly, never imagining she could do something so destructive. That's what hurts the most," I admitted. "You trusted your history with her more than your knowledge of my character. 5 years of marriage, and you were so quick to believe I could abuse a child." "You're right," James acknowledged. "I failed you completely. I let family loyalty blind me to the truth that was right in front of me." "How do we move forward from here?" I asked. "I don't know how to trust you again when you didn't trust me during the worst moment of my life." After much discussion, we agreed to seek professional help. Dr. Melissa Carter, a marriage counselor recommended by Catherine, began seeing us twice weekly. In her office, we unpacked not only the recent crisis, but deeper patterns in our relationship. James, Dr. Carter observed during one session, "It seems you've never fully transitioned from your family of origin to your marriage. Your sister still holds primary loyalty in ways that are problematic for your relationship with Amanda." James struggled with this insight initially, but gradually came to recognize the unhealthy dynamics he had maintained with Allison. Through therapy, he began establishing clearer boundaries with his sister while working to rebuild his connection with me. Meanwhile, CPS had developed a parenting plan for Allison that included mandatory counseling and parenting classes. Tyler was allowed to remain in her custody under supervision, with regular check-ins from a social worker. James maintained contact with Tyler, but insisted on meeting him without Allison present for the time being. During one such visit to the park, Tyler approached me cautiously while James bought ice cream. "I'm sorry I said you hit me and Amanda," he said, his eyes downcast. "Mom told me to say it, and I was scared to tell the truth." My heart ached for him. "I know it wasn't your fault, Tyler. Adults sometimes make mistakes that affect children in ways they shouldn't. Are you still mad at me?" I knelt to his level. "I was never mad at you, Tyler. I was sad about the situation, but I understand you were just doing what your mom asked. You're still my favorite nephew, and I still care about you very much." His small arms wrapping around my neck in a tight hug brought tears to my eyes. This innocent child had been caught in his mother's destructive scheme, and now he too was dealing with the consequences. Reintegrating into our social circle proved challenging. Some friends who had distanced themselves during the investigation now returned with awkward apologies. Others seemed unsure how to address what had happened and avoided the topic entirely. A few, like Catherine, had stood by me throughout and became even more treasured in the aftermath. Our neighbor Eleanor stopped by with a homemade pie one afternoon. "Frank and I always knew you couldn't have done what they said," she assured me. "We told the CPS lady the same when she interviewed us." "Thank you for believing in me," I replied, genuinely touched. And thank you for mentioning the security cameras that day. You helped me find the proof I needed. Sometimes the truth needs a little help coming to light, she said with a wise smile. Dealing with the community's mixed reactions taught me valuable lessons about human nature. People tend to believe accusations first and retractions second. Some neighbors who had been quick to judge now avoided eye contact when we passed on the street. Parents who had demanded my removal from the classroom now acted as though nothing had happened. I learned to accept that not everyone would acknowledge their role in perpetuating a false narrative. 6 months after the incident, life had achieved a new normal. James and I continued therapy, making slow but steady progress in rebuilding trust. We had moved from separate bedrooms back to sharing our marital bed, though emotional intimacy returned more gradually than physical closeness. Allison had completed her required parenting classes and continued individual therapy. According to James, who maintained limited contact with her, she was working on addressing the jealousy and insecurity that had driven her destructive behavior. She had sent me a formal written apology, which felt more like a therapeutic exercise than a genuine reconciliation attempt. I acknowledged it politely but maintained my distance. The most profound changes occurred within me. The experience of being falsely accused, doubted by my husband, and investigated by authorities had transformed my worldview in unexpected ways. I became more assertive in all my relationships, no longer willing to accommodate others at the expense of my own well-being. I developed a deeper appreciation for evidence and factual truth in an era when accusations can spread faster than rebuttals. Most importantly, I gained an unshakable confidence in my own integrity that no external validation could provide. One evening, as James and I sat on our back porch watching the sunset, accepting this response with the maturity our ordeal had forced upon both of us. For what it's worth, he added, I've learned that true loyalty isn't about blindly taking someone's side. It's about standing for truth and integrity, even when that's difficult. His words reflected the growth we had both experienced through this painful journey. As autumn leaves began to fall in our backyard, I reflected on how quickly life can change based on a single false accusation, and how challenging it is to rebuild once trust is broken. Yet, I also recognized my own resilience and capacity for growth through adversity. The security cameras that had saved my reputation now seemed symbolic of a larger truth, that evidence matters, that facts exist independent of emotions, and that the truth, while sometimes obscured, remains waiting to be discovered by those willing to look for it. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to move forward? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might find comfort in knowing they're not alone in facing false accusations or betrayal. Thank you for joining me on this difficult journey, and remember that sometimes our greatest growth comes from our most painful challenges.